these guys have really started to hit a stride, haven't they?
They have, and it's been good to see, Meghan, because the Pacers struggled for so long at stringing together wins. And they hadn't had a winning streak greater than 2 games before this recent streak. They got it to 3 and 4 and 5. And I think a team that was kind of struggling for a while to find their identity, struggling with confidence maybe a little bit. This 5-game winning streak, and we'll see maybe even more added on to it, is really, I think, what they needed.
What do you think is the cause for this win streak? What do you think they finally figured out?
Some of it, I think, is rebounding. The Pacers have been so inconsistent on the glass this season, and they've been good enough in the last 5 games where their other strengths have really come into play and overtaken their struggles on the rebounding side. But I talked to Al Jefferson about that a little bit, and he says Jeff Teague's been our MVP during this stretch. Teague's been fantastic lately. He's really been good since they moved Glenn Robinson into the starting lineup. And Teague is putting up all-star-like numbers over the past 5 games, really since the beginning of December or so. But when Teague's going at the rate he is, as a point guard, he's finding all these other options on the floor, and they're being more effective because of it. So I would say they're getting on the glass better, and Jeff Teague is finding guys like Paul George, like Glenn Robinson III, Thaddeus Young, Miles Turner in good positions.
Over these past 5 games, he's averaging a little more than 11 assists, and he's shooting 91% from the free throw line, which I personally appreciate because you got to make your free throws.
You got to make your free throws, and the Pacers really haven't had a player, you think back maybe even to Jamal Tinsley, maybe past Jamal Tinsley, who can assist at that kind of level. George Hill was a really good guard, but he wasn't a top assist guy. So to have somebody like Jeff Teague who can, help Paul George, Paul can work more on finding his spots. Miles Turner, who's young, finding his spots. I think the addition of Jeff Teague and what he's brought is really starting to show here lately.
Eastern Conference standings, obviously Cleveland and Toronto take 1 and 2, but looking at the bottom half of the 8, Boston, Atlanta, Indiana, they're in 5th place right now, followed by Charlotte, Chicago, and Washington. What do you make of the standings at this point in time?
Just how close it is, and what you can't see is past 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are all right there. 5 to 12 is so tight in the Eastern Conference. Indiana was out of the playoffs, if you will, past the 8th spot just a few games ago, and now they're up to 5. So that graphic, for where Indiana has been most of the year, looks pretty good with the Pacers at the 5 spot. But it's important to understand, and the team understands, really how close 5 to 12 is. Just a couple losses and a couple other teams getting hot, they could fall their way back down. But you see what can happen. You win 5 in a row, all of a sudden you go from 8, 9, 10, up into that 5 spot and bidding for a potential first-round home playoff series. Still way too far away to talk about that, but looking at them at 5 right now looks pretty good compared to where they've been most of the year.
I know the fans are pretty excited about that. Pat, you said it right there. It's a long season. Can we get caught up in this quite yet, or do we need to kind of take a step back and see what happens?
I think it's fair to enjoy this moment because they've been looking for that winning streak so long this season. Again, they hadn't had more than 2 wins coming into 2017. So I think it's fair to look at this. I think it's fair to say, they're playing better. Maybe this is something that could extrapolate down the road. But, it's been a fairly inconsistent team positively and negatively this season. So, maybe wait a little bit longer to see what happens into January and into February. But there were so many moving pieces in the offseason. I think you're starting to see more of what the Pacers are going to look like right now as the season goes on.
Well, it should be pretty exciting. Pat Boylan, thank you so much for joining us. Always so insightful.
No problem.
Using words like extrapolate. All right, guys.